The War of the Bounty Hunters was started shortly after Boba Fett departed from Bespin with Han Solo frozen in carbonite. While en route to Tatooine, Boba found that the carbonite process was beginning to destabilize in a way that could lead to Solo's death. He stopped on Nar Shaddaa and took the body to Doc Raygon, a criminal who promised that the problem was fixable so long as Boba had the means to pay him. Not having been paid by Jabba for the job yet, Boba was forced to make up the payment another way. Raygon sent Boba to the fighting pits of Nar Kanji to step in for a fighter who had recently died. Not wanting the Kanji to recognize him, Boba used nano spray paint to turn his armor black and fought using his father's name, Jango. Boba easily wiped out his competition and won the tournament, though he irritated the Kanji in the process. He returned to Raygon's clinic only to find the doctor dead and Solo gone, taken by unknown and mysterious operatives. The thieves weren't the only people looking for Solo at the time. Word of Boba's trip to Nar Shaddaa reached Chewbacca through a contact, causing Luke and the Wookiee to visit the world together in hopes of finding a lead on their friend. Chewbacca's contact turned out to be Sagwa, the Wookiee Chewbacca had once helped free from the spice mines of Kessel. The group investigated the arena Boba had fought in, but found nothing other than trouble with the Kanji Boba had left frustrated. Also on their way to investigate the sighting of Boba on the moon were the bounty hunters Valance and Dengar. Valance had served with Han in the Imperial Army, and it was there that Han saved Valance's life. Valance hoped to repay the favor and had pressed Dengar into helping him to do so. While on their way to Nar Shaddaa, their ship was attacked by fellow hunters Zuckuss and Forlom. Dengar was forced to give the pair the information about Boba's location in order to survive. Valance and Dengar went on to encounter Chewbacca on Nar Shaddaa, but both parties left without future leads. Shortly after returning from a visit to the Emperor's hidden world of Exegol, Darth Vader found himself invested in the hunt for Solo as well. After learning of Solo's theft, and motivated in part by spite for Solo's part in thwarting him before, Vader and his new lackey, Ochi of Bestoon, forced the Hutt council member Boku into becoming their spy on the council. Boku directed Vader to IG-88, though this turned out to be a trap set up by Vader's rival, Sly Moore. Vader defeated IG-88 in combat and began to unravel the conspiracy behind Solo's kidnapping. Back on Nar Shaddaa, Boba began his hunt for the thieves that had taken Solo. As he approached his ship to depart, he was attacked by Zuckuss and Forlom. Boba easily dispatched the pair of hunters and used Forlom's disembodied head to learn that Jabba had placed a bounty on Fett's head, in the belief that his delay was due to betrayal. Boba went to Tatooine and confronted Bib Fortuna, where he learned Jabba was no longer present at the palace. The culprits behind Solo being stolen were none other than the Crimson Dawn, which awakened from years of hibernation in the public eye under the leadership of Han's old flame and Maul's former associate, Kira. Kira intended to use Han as a catalyst to bring all of the galaxy's major players together at an auction on Jakara, where the entire underworld could bid for a chance to settle whatever score they had with Solo. Among those who received invitations were the Empire, the Hutt Council, the Pikes, Black Sun, and more. Rebel agent Amilyn Haldo heard about the meeting as well while undercover and sent word of it to Leia. Despite Crimson Dawn bringing up old memories for both Lando and Chewbacca, the Millennium Falcon set course for Jakara, though Luke stayed behind to help the rebels on a mission. Their plan to infiltrate the auction undercover failed when the Black Sun attacked, forcing the Falcon into a crash, but Leia remained undeterred and certain that they could recover Han. While on a mission for Domina Tag, Dr. Aphra and Sana Staros learned about the auction by finding an invitation on the corpse of the man they were looking for. Though they were delayed by an encounter with the bounty hunter Dirge, they reported this to Tag, who instructed them to attend the auction and learn what they could about Crimson Dawn's resurgence. Valance and Dengar were herded to Jakara as well by the assassin Deathstick, working under orders from Kira. After Vader crushed Sly Moore's attempt to eliminate him, Moore offered to attend the auction and secure Solo as bait for Skywalker out of self-preservation. Meanwhile, Boba moved to infiltrate the auction, though he was delayed when Bossk attacked him in the hopes of receiving the still active bounty from Jabba. Boba won the battle and left Bossk stranded in the cold, making it to the auction using a disguise. He attempted to use Aphra as a diversion to recover Solo, but was stopped when Kira began her bidding war. Sly Moore tried to use the Force to ensure the Empire's winning bid, but the Hutt resistance to Mind Trick led to Jabba winning the auction with an offer of 1 million credits. Boba moved to take Solo by force, but before he could, he came face to face with Leia, Lando, and Chewbacca. As Fett and the rebels faced off, Darth Vader arrived to crash the party. Vader had never had any intention of allowing Moore or the Hutts to get Solo, instead intending to humiliate Moore and turn the Hutts against each other as Jabba and Boku squabbled over the bid. Once the auction was complete, Vader stormed the hall and demanded Solo for himself. Trying to avoid catching the attention of the Crimson Dawn or the Empire, Chewbacca and Boba began to fight silently. Boba managed to overpower the Wookiee and told the rebels that while they might have conflicting plans for Solo, he would stay out of their way for the time being if they stayed out of his. Meanwhile, Kira demanded payment from Vader and provoked him into combat when he refused. Despite her lack of Force sensitivity, training from her time under Maul allowed her to hold her own against him for a brief time in front of an audience of the most powerful crime lords. Vader recognized the lineage of Kira's instruction and overpowered her shortly through the Force. He was preparing to execute her when suddenly, he sensed Luke enter the system, having finished his mission to help reunite the rebel fleet. As Kira slipped away unnoticed, Vader contacted Luke's X-Wing and informed Luke that if he did not come to Vader immediately, Vader would put his lightsaber through Han's frozen body. Luke was still traumatized by his recent loss against Vader at Cloud City, and the revelation that Vader was in fact his father. When confronted with this choice, Luke realized that he was not yet ready to face Vader again in person and win. Instead, Luke baited Vader into chasing him through Jakara's skies in a TIE fighter, giving Leia, Lando, and Chewbacca a chance to intercept the Imperials, taking Han to Vader's Star Destroyer, while the Dark Lord himself was distracted. Intimidated by Vader's show of strength, Jabba saw that there was no profit in challenging the Empire even over Solo, and departed. The rest of the Hutt Council, stirred into a frenzy by Boku, decided that the embarrassment of Vader taking a prize that they had rightly won could not stand, and they ordered their fleet to launch an attack on the Imperials over the planet. In reality, Boku was an agent of Kira and the Crimson Dawn, pitting the two sides against each other under her orders. As the Hutts began to engage the Empire, the rebels rushed to repair the damage to the Falcon. After Lando quietly apologized to L3 for having lost her to Han years prior, they managed to restore power to the ship. They boarded Vader's Star Destroyer with the help of a Crimson Dawn spy Kira had instructed to aid them. Meanwhile, Boba used Valance's knowledge of Imperial ships to find where Solo was being kept, before betraying the other hunter, leaving Valance for dead on a ship swarming with stormtroopers. This led Valance to being recaptured and forced into Imperial service once more. Admiral Pyatt attempted to recall Vader to help the fleet against the Hutt's attack, but Vader, still chasing Luke across Jakara in his fighter, refused. Pyatt went over Vader's head to calm the Emperor himself, who then ordered Vader to cease his chase of Skywalker and personally cow the Hutts into submission. As Vader departed, Luke swore that next time the two met, Luke would have conquered his fear and become a true Jedi. Leia, Lando, and Chewbacca successfully fought their way through the Imperials and secured Han only for a missile from the space battle to destroy the room's outer wall, sending Han's body tumbling into space while Leia could do nothing but watch. The rebels were left with the belief that Han had died, but Boba used his jetpack to fly through Jakara's atmosphere and recover his bounty intact. As the Emperor had ordered, Vader boarded the Hutt flagship to confront Boku and the rest of the Council. After Vader slaughtered the other Council members, Boku revealed his duplicity in working for the Crimson Dawn the whole time. He attempted to assassinate Vader by destroying his own ship, but Vader survived by using the Force to quickly surround himself in a protective barrier of metal, which crashed down onto Jakara intact. Above the planet, Leia and Chewbacca were despondent with their belief that Han had died after being sucked into the vacuum of space. Before the Falcon could leave, Crimson Dawn's flagship approached Kira and demanded an audience with Leia alone. Kira talked with Leia about their shared history of Han, and how while Kira had used Han as bait, she had planned on the rebels being able to rescue him. Kira then revealed that Han was still alive, having been successfully delivered to Jabba's palace by Boba, where he was likely safer than the rebels themselves were in their war against the Empire. Leia was suspicious of Kira's motives and considered taking her to an Alliance prison, but relented when Kira promised that when the time came, they could count on the Crimson Dawn's help in rescuing Han. With the auction and the fighting complete, all parties left Jakara. The incident was a success for Kira and the Crimson Dawn. Its true purpose had been to show the Empire's weakness in front of the entire underworld, and open a power vacuum that they could then fill. Boku and many others may have died, but Crimson Dawn and its new allies, which included the Knights of Ren and secretly Ochi of Bestoon, were well positioned to become one of the galaxy's new major players. At the auction, Aphra had discovered information that revealed Crimson Dawn had spies placed in vital places throughout the galaxy, and their influence ran deeper than anyone realized. This conflict had a large impact on the shape of the war and the galactic underworld that reverberated for decades to follow. Sly Moore was arrested for her conspiracies against Vader, who soon became distracted by hunting down Crimson Dawn for revenge. Beyond Crimson Dawn's newfound prominence, the slaughter of the Hutt council members besides Jabba led to the Hutt organization falling apart when Jabba himself was killed several months later. This directly led to new gangs rising in prominence, including the Narkanji gangsters, later known as Kanji Club. Boba Fett's completion of the job to deliver Solo caused him to stay at Jabba's palace for some time, which ended in him falling into the Sarlacc pit. What exactly became of Kira and the Crimson Dawn themselves remains to be seen, but it's clear that their role in galactic history was not yet over.